So yesterday I saw an early screening of DC Studios' Supergirl. I want to start out by addressing the elephant in the room here. A lot of you guys might have seen a lot of negative things being said about this movie, and I want to help you properly view those things in context and properly filter those things out, because every single time a female-led superhero movie comes out, let's be honest, it's met with a huge reception or a huge negative reception from trolls, sexist people online, old men, etc. That is the reality. I'm 21 years old, so I'm not the oldest, but I've seen it happen quite a few times, and I knew it was going to happen with this movie before any thoughts or reactions or reviews even came out. And I just want to do a quick takedown or quick debunking of these reviews, because a lot of them aren't based on the merit of the film, or very loosely based on the merit of the film, but a lot of them feel the need to reference Millie Alcock's looks and the fact that they don't find her attractive, which is just unreal and completely despicable to do from a critic's perspective. For example, this one from Rotten Tomatoes, Sean Burns. I've never understood the young male fan culture's hostile aversion to seeing women on screen. Part of the reason why I've always loved going to the movies is because I enjoy looking up at giant moving pictures of pretty girls. I thought everybody did. Bro, really? That's your review of the movie? Nothing about the visuals, nothing about the performances, about the direction, about the action. It's all about the fact that you don't find the lead actress attractive. And this is a Rotten Tomato verified review. This is the review from Variety, which is like one of the most major film publications. They have a whole paragraph dedicated to how Millie Alcock has a touch of wild child 70s androgyny. Looks like the feral kid from The Road Warrior in oversized sunglasses with little orphan Annie desert wastrel hair. I don't even know what that means. But like, what are we doing, guys? Like, that actually makes me very upset that in 2026, this is still happening. And this will never happen with the male-led superhero movie, obviously. I wish people would just review this movie purely on its merit, which is what I'm going to do today, purely based on merit. So starting off with the good, there was a lot to like about this movie. I think it was a fun experience, and I think general audiences will adhere to it maybe even more than I did as a comic book fan. First of all, Millie Alcock, I really hope she either stays offline or maybe just exclusively sees all the positive praise that she's going to get, because she absolutely tears up this role. She is the definitive Supergirl, and I say that as a big fan of the CW Supergirl. No, she is definitive. She is very comic accurate in her portrayal. But at the same time, she's very nuanced. She carries a lot of emotional depth. She has a good sense of humor, and her chemistry with both Superman, Lobo, or even like the little girl Ruthie that she has to protect is all great. And you really feel her depression and her pain and her struggle with apparent alcoholism throughout the first act of the film, because she's been through so much and way more than Superman ever has. I mean, you feel all of that. Jason Momoa as Lobo obviously is amazing. I think everyone knew he was going to be, because like from the very beginning, he's always wanted to play Lobo. He like didn't even want to play Aquaman. He thought the audition was for Lobo. So, I mean, he was great. I think Ruthie's performance is a little inconsistent, but this is her kind of debut performance. She's a very young actress, and I think there are moments where she really pulls off the emotions that she's trying to sell, and other moments where she feels a little bit awkward. But once again, I mean, she's very, very young actress. I think maybe 13, 14. I don't know how young she is, but very young and inexperienced. Obviously, David Cornsweet. He only has a few scenes. I don't want to talk about it much because it's Supergirl's movie, but that dude is just like, he's the definitive Superman. Like, it's crazy. Every time he's on screen, he just sells it so hard that like, oh my God, this is Superman. Like, they shook a comic and he fell out. And I think the cinematography was mostly pretty good. I think there are some shots that are a bit questionable in terms of just like when a lot of heavy VFX is involved. This was one of the lower budget superhero films because it's like a lower tier kind of character on the popularity scale of things. So some of the VFX shots were a little iffy, but they were able to pull off some really good shots, especially like everything that happens in space. It kind of has that spectacle, that grand feel, and the storyline was really good. I mean, once again, a lot of emotional depth. It really is kind of a character study on Kara Zor-El, on Supergirl, and it's nice to have a character study for this character who everybody seems to know of, but nobody seems to know very well. Like, people know of her because of her adjacency to Superman and because obviously, if you say Supergirl to the average person, they immediately know who you're talking about, obviously, but not many people know very much about her as a character and what makes her different from Superman. So I think it was important to have this film. And especially because when she comes in at the end of Superman, it's a very funny scene that everyone found to be hilarious when she comes in, she crashes in, she's like, where's my dog? You know what I mean? All that stuff. And she's super drunk. And that's played up for laughs. But it almost gives that scene a different kind of meaning when you see this film and you're like, you see what she's gone through and what she has to go through. And so a lot of people say that this shouldn't have been the follow-up to Superman, but I think that it was a good movie to choose for that reason. And because it's Supergirl, like she is an important character in DC Comics. I mean, she plays a crucial role in a lot of DC events like Blackest Night and like Crisis on Infinite Earths. Also, I think the set design and the costume design, like the practical makeup, was very, very well done for all of like the alien creatures. And I'm going to give a hot take here. I see Krem getting like slandered a lot for being like a quote unquote boring villain. I don't know if he was that like boring per se. I mean, he wasn't really fleshed out of like, oh, why is he doing this? But like, I don't need every villain to be totally fleshed out and totally, you know, either be quipping and have a personality, or on the other side and be super developed of like, oh, there's a reason why he did this. No, he's just an incredibly evil person who traffics girls. Like, that's all we need to know about him to hate him and to want to see him get defeated. Like, I didn't need anything else. And I felt that he was intimidating when he came on screen, or at least I was like, like this dude again. Like, I did feel that. And so I think that people are overblowing this, you know, this whole, he's one of the worst villains. Like, I really don't think that he was that bad of a villain. I think that he was effective at the very least of as an antagonist. And now getting into the not so good, obviously there were negative things about this film, and I think it all can be boiled down to the editing. I don't think the script was as bad as people might say. I don't think the directing was as bad as people might say. I think when you really watch it, a lot of the editing choices are what keep this film from being truly great. And to just being good or solid. For one, the needle drops, like the songs that they choose to play in certain scenes are sometimes decent choices and sometimes just baffling choices. There's one scene in particular during the final battle, actually, where they choose a song and I'm just like, oh my God, like it took me out of the scene. And it really shows you how a bad needle drop can really like tank a scene. And it was a well-directed scene, action scene outside of that. And that was really unfortunate to see. And then also like there's a lot of cutting in the action sequences. And it seems like something that we'd see in a superhero movie from maybe 10 years ago, with all of the like rapid cuts to the point where you can't really distinguish what's really going on. And then by the time you make out what's going on, the action scene's over. And coming off the heels of Superman 2025, where there's a lot of camera movement, very smooth camera movements and one-shot sequences where you can really see everything that's going on, and see all the action, a lot of long takes. Like coming off of the heels of that was really refreshing for a superhero film. Coming into this, it was pretty disappointing to see all of those choppy, quick cuts happen in the editing bay. And I really think that this movie could have done without it. And yeah, I think the pacing of this film is inconsistent, and I think that's also, that's not totally an editing thing. That also could be a script thing. But you know, it gets off to a really slow start, and then it feels like things are happening too fast. And then we jump in with flashbacks at really weird times that things should be escalating further. And they're really, really well-made flashback scenes, but they're kind of spliced in at weird times in the film. And I don't know if that's a script thing or editing thing. I do know this movie was chopped down by like 25-30 minutes, and it's only an hour 45, which is that's not really that long. Like that's kind of too short. I think it's too short to tell this story if you're trying to tell an origin story and a whole separate story within that. Like it's an origin story through flashbacks, but it's also its own self-contained superhero story at the same time. So I think trying to handle all that in an hour 45 is going to lead to some things feeling a little undercooked. But yeah, overall, I think this movie does have a lot going for it, and I still think it's worth seeing in theaters. It's a fun theatrical experience. This movie has a lot of people gunning for it, and a lot of people who wanted it to be bad and who were waiting to hate on it before it even released. Even on other negative reviews on YouTube, everyone in the comment section is like celebrating that the reviewer didn't like the film, which is just weird to me. Like, just go see it for yourself. And once again, it's a tale as old as time. Every single time a female-led superhero movie or even blockbuster film comes out, it's always met with these trolls who have nothing better to do. And sometimes, as I demonstrated earlier in my showing of the reviews as evidence, sometimes these trolls are critics as well, who dictate what the quote-unquote consensus on this movie is going to be, which is very unfortunate, and I really hope that stops. But overall, I'd give Supergirl a 7.5 out of 10. So let me know if you plan to see Supergirl. If you are a fan of comic book movies in general, I do advise you still go see it and form your own opinion. I know they made changes to the original Woman of Tomorrow comic. I tried to review it divorced of any preconceived notions I had based on that comic, just because it is its own film at the end of the day. Yes, they took elements from it, but it's a whole separate project, so you can't really say, oh, they didn't follow it exactly, because they're not obliged to at all. And yeah, if you enjoyed this review, like and comment down below what you thought of the movie, or when you plan to go see it. Subscribe for more film reviews, subscribe for more comic content, and I'll see you next time.